Let's have a
Cool.
listen
What's
to
first on the docket for tonight?
Chippy, Chris Hipkins. Is going to
Nice.
have a chat with Pat. Very awesome, candid chat. He gives his thoughts on why the National Front bench and whatever his name is, Luxon, is not attending. He also gives a few thoughts on Seymour's speech and gives some thoughts on the vibe at Waitangi, and specifically the vibe towards his party this time around being a little bit different now that they've got their front bench sorted. Yeah, so we'll have a listen and then we'll come back and see you guys soon.
Cool.
Waitangi, face to face.
Yeah,
You doing well?
yeah, it's been really nice actually. We've had it's been pretty we've had some very formal moments. We've just come back from probably the most formal moment, which actually probably the most formal moment will be tomorrow morning, the dawn service.
Yep.
But the second most is the porphyry,
Yeah.
which we've just come back from. But we've had some amazing, really kind of informal, relaxed times here too.
Yeah.
Yesterday I went out paddling with the rangatahi on the Waka, expecting that to be maybe an hour or two. We were out there for 3 hours.
You described that this morning as spiritual. Is that because you were mentally exhausted and you couldn't go any further? So that's all that's left?
No, because actually once you kind of get into the rhythm of it and you sort of detune yourself from what's happening around you more, well, you tune yourself into what's happening immediately around you and kind of all the noise, all the everything else, you can kind of tune it out.
Yeah.
Then it did kind of feel spiritual, and it's an amazing place.
Yeah.
You know, just we went up to the falls, and just that place just feels quite amazing.
Not to kind of start on a negative, but obviously Luxon's not here.
Yeah.
But then we started counting. Nicola Willis, number 2, not here. Simeon Brown, I think, is number 3. I don't know their list too much, but it feels like I think Jerry might be about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
What does that say to the nation about a party that won't even send their not the boss, but like the top 3 or 4?
Well, and the Speaker doesn't count. I mean, the Speaker's here on behalf of all of Parliament, so he shouldn't be here representing the National Party
right.
or the government. Actually, the Speaker sort of rises above that kind of politics. So it was appropriate that he was here to lead the parliamentary delegation on. But it's a very underpowered government delegation. You know, the senior leadership of the government are absent.
Yeah.
Christopher Luxon and all of the kind of the next layer of government ministers on the National Party side all absent as well. And I think it really is, it's created a void. You know, Waitangi Day, we should be talking about the future of the country. The message from the National Party is they don't have anything to say about the future of the country.
I mean, people will often throw back on social medias and stuff like, well, Helen Clark missed one out. I'd be interested, though. I bet your number 2 was here then. It's like, I just think like that there's, boss, next one. Oh, can the caretaker come along to represent? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think they kind of hung Tama Pōtaka out to dry, to be fair. Without getting into any kind of personal critique of him, I think it was really unfair what they did to him.
Yeah.
I think his comments weren't helpful either. I think he tried to sort of make it about him, actually, and it's not about him. It's about the decisions that the government's taking.
Yeah. How did you feel about this morning, about your speech? How, in particular, Seymour was received?
I got a really, really good, really lovely feedback afterwards about my speech, certainly not about his. I think people wanted a sense of unity. They wanted something positive. It's the feeling here is not that different to around the rest of the country. I think people are just looking for some optimism and some hope.
Yeah.
And they realise that, it's tough and that, things aren't easy, but they want to know that we're working towards something,
Yeah.
that things can get better.
Yeah.
And this government's not giving them a sense of that. And Seymour's speech was deliberately provocative.
Yeah.
He basically showed up with the intention of trying to, it's clear his audience were not the audience he was speaking to.
Yeah.
He wasn't here to speak to anybody here.
Yeah.
He was here to try and create a visual image for the TV news that will appeal to a certain segment of New Zealand. And that was
Agreed.
his sole purpose of being here.
Yeah, there was a beautiful moment when the mics cut out and they replaced his mics. Then he started going again, and someone just came and took the mic back off him again. It was a beautiful moment. Several people have commented that this feels a smaller Waitangi than previous years, especially at that porphyry. Do you get that sense? And you have any ideas why?
Well, that was certainly the biggest challenge that I have seen at Waitangi in terms of at the start of the Pōwhiri. I've never seen that many people, lining up to challenge the parliamentary delegation on its arrival. And I think that in itself was a very powerful message.
Yeah, very much.
There's a lot of people here. We've probably got one of the bigger Labour teams that we've ever had here, because I think it's important. This is our national day. This is the place where we should come to celebrate, and it is a celebration. It's a celebration and a commemoration all joined together. It's about saying we've got a lot to celebrate together about where we're at as a country and about the possibilities that we have.
Yeah.
We've got a lot that we can celebrate our future, and then we've got some things about our past that we also need to remember.
Yeah.
So to commemorate, and I think you can do all of those things here. I don't think the way Waitangi has been characterised for years on the TV news at 6 o'clock is actually a really fair reflection of what happens here.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Generally speaking, there'll always be a little bit of raru, a bit of backwards and forwards in the formal Pōwhiri. But get beyond that, get out and about, put your shorts and t-shirt on, and wander around, and you'll find the vibe here is amazing.
Yeah, I agree. It is amazing. What have you personally heard from this Waitangi visit, which you're going to take back to the Labour caucus for 2025?
I think there's been a mood shift from last year. So this is the third year that I've been here as leader of the party.
Yep.
First year it was I'd just become Prime Minister, and so I think people were kind of like, okay, new boss,
What you got?
What are you all about?
Yeah.
Last year there was almost a sense that, you guys lost, so you're a bit irrelevant, and they were nice, it was polite and everything, but you kind of got the sense no one was really tuned in much to what we had to say. This year the mood's different. This year people have seen enough of this government to know, actually we don't like it, we don't want it, we want to know that there's something different. So I think the message for us is when we're back here next year,
Yep.
people want to know, okay, it's election year, what's the direction that you're going to take the country in that's different to this government? And so over the next year, that's what I think we've got to set out for people.
And is there anything, I asked Martin the same question yesterday, anything you must achieve this year, and is there anything you must stop this year?
Well, I think we can work hard to try and stop as much of the government's backwards program as we can. The reality is they've got the majority in Parliament, and as long as they hold the government together, and that I suspect is going to get more and more tenuous as the year goes along, but as long as they can hold their votes together, they can do what they want in Parliament, but we can at least, make some noise about that. I think the goals for us as a party are to think about that longer term vision for the country. And so when people, when us political junkies talking about policy,
Yeah.
it's actually not necessarily what the public think policy is.
For sure.
We think to announce a policy, you've got to have a 50-page detailed description of every aspect of it, and you've got to have all the numbers and everything like that. When the public are saying things like we want to hear what your policy is, they actually just want to know what you stand for.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they know that you're not going to have, at this point in the electoral cycle, you're not going to have every aspect of it costed and tested and all that. But they want to know what's the direction we're heading in, what are the values that are going to be important to us. So I think that's what we need to do over the next year. I think people accept that we can't set out detailed costed plans for everything, 2 years out from an election, when everything can change in the meantime.
Yeah.
But they just want to know, well, okay, what are your priorities? What's the direction you want to go in? So I think that's what you'll hear from us this year.
One last thing, the BHN whānau, who are going to be watching this,
Yeah.
what's your message to them about 2025? What do you want to see the people who would naturally come towards the left? What's your message to them specifically about this year and the next, say, 18, 20 months?
It's similar to what I said last when we spoke just before Christmas, which is I love the support that we get from those who are politically engaged, but we've got to really focus on those who aren't.
Yeah.
So it's we've got to reach out to those who either don't vote or sort of make up their minds at the last minute on how to vote, and they switch around all over the place. That's got to be who we're focusing our attention on.
Yeah.
And it does mean for some of our political activists, it means that we're not necessarily going to be going straight into the stuff that they want to talk about, because we've got to reconnect first. In order to have a conversation with someone on the phone, you've got to dial the number first. And I think that's a bit where we're at the moment. I think if I extended that metaphor a bit further, last year the phone was off the hook. People didn't want to hear from us. The phone's back on the hook now, but we've got to give them a ring.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Have a good Waitangi.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll see you through the year.
Very good.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
That's a new style of interviewing at a cafe table That was awesome. That was really good.
With Shane Joan squawking in the background.
I think that message at the end there about who Labour's talking to, it's an interesting one, because I know that that's a message for someone like me and probably a whole bunch of people in the chat as well, is that it's not going to be enough for a lot of us on the left, that we're going to have the same criticisms we've had of Labour all the way through. And that's why aren't we lucky that we have two other left parties that we can vote for? But his identifying where they lost being the middle, I think he's right. Those people that are left of middle that were sick of Labour for whatever reason, valid or not, that cost them the election. They lost votes for sure on their left, on their activist side, but those votes still went to the left bloc. So, if the Greens pick up more votes, if Te Pāti Māori pick up more votes, that's not good for National and ACT. That's still good for Labour. So I think his focus there of we need to pull people away from National, those are the voters that are up for grabs. I think that's correct. Doesn't make me happy. Doesn't make me a Labour cheerleader, but I think he's right.
Yeah. It's a little bit different to your tune at the end of last year, you reckon?
Yeah. I mean, in my heart, I still want Labour to be a workers' party, right? Let the flag fly. And I still think that talking about the economy and crime is the wrong way to go. But again, it's me further to the left of the people that he's aiming at, and maybe those words will do the damage, do the good, get those people back to the left of middle rather than right of middle, than saying, hey, we're a workers' party and we're going to talk about good wages and secure jobs more than we're going to talk about the economy. The economy flows out of those things. Or we're going to talk about fair taxation as a way of making you feel safer, because more tax take from people that are keeping it rather than contributing is making it harder to do policing. It's making it harder to keep people in jobs. It's making it harder to keep people healthy and educated and all of those really good things. For those people that just tune in right before the election, maybe a punchier message is needed. I'm not leading the Labour Party, so it's hard for me to say. Maybe they have polling data, they have research into this, I'm sure. But I think one thing I would 100% put to bed at this stage is the people that say that Chippy needs to go. I think he's the right person, personally.
Yep. I think considering that he is at this stage said he is the leader and he's got a really strong front bench, I think it would do damage to their party if they had kicked him now or afterwards, right?
Yep.
He said, nope, I'm the person to lead this. I think he is the right person to lead us. I do see a few people saying he's a bit of a wet fish, but that might be what they need versus Luxon.
I don't see that.
I see him as like your friendly neighbor.
Charisma. Yes.
Yeah.
And contrast that with what we have now. A corporate buzzword generator.
Yeah.
A fucking Scrabble corporate edition fucking tile bag thrown into a ceiling fan. We don't get a single shred of actual real person there. And yet here we have an interview that Pat's pulled out of his ass of a happy, relaxed Chippy at one of the most important days in this country. It's it's a chalk and cheese difference. You can't say he doesn't have a personality. You can't say that he doesn't have a charisma. It's different. Like, and I
Yeah.
think when you look at the last election, like Jesus Christ Reborn probably couldn't have got Labour voted back in. Like, he picked up a poison chalice when Jacinda left. And I don't think it's fair to go, oh well, you didn't turn it around in a couple of months. Fuck off. Like, I think he is the right person there. And the main thing that I had there is the Labour Party think he's the right person to be there, and his front bench think he's the right person to be there. So yeah.
And then the front bench
I would put that to bed. He's taking it to the next election.
I
if
would
they
say
lose,
that we're doing him damage
sure,
by questioning it.
up for grabs. But whether you like Labour or not, I think he is the right person to lead Labour to the election.
Yep.
Past that, it's anybody's guess. I don't think any leader would be able to survive 2 consecutive losses, but again, it's a long road. It's a long road to the next election.